will be the first dive of the night.
Oh, 6.5 across the board.
The University of Connecticut, Kyle Kennedy, 5134D, 2.6.
5134D for our next diver, Kyle Kennedy. 1.5 somersault, 2 twist.
A little pushed out from the board. His feet came apart slightly.
6.0, 6.5.
He did a little bit better in warm-up, so I don't know. But 6s and a 6.5 across the board, so I think he's happy with that.
All right, next up, Gavrilo Blyden of East Carolina. Inward 1.5 somersault pike. Beautiful.
Really clean on the entry.
6.5.
43.2 for Blyden.
With such nice clean lines. Oh, point. We'll get him. Another point.
Here comes Devin Nugent from East Carolina. Forward 2.5 somersault pike.
Very nice.
Awards.
2.5 somersaults off a 1 meter board is awfully tough. Those 7s in particular, really good scores.
From FSMU, Dominic
He
Hafer.
squeezed so well.
Dominic Hofer of Southern Methodist. Forward 2.5 somersault pike. Gets a huge score, 57.2.
That'll be our leading mark.
So far, for sure. Well done. All right, here is your defending champion from SMU, Parker Hardigree. Parker's ready to go. Forward 2.5 somersault pike. 2.6.
Great hurdle. Wow. Look at the height on that. That'll be our lead. You can see why. Super clean, beautiful hurdle. The height that he had.
More look at it.
Peter Smithson, 5134D.
I mean, the room for him.
Peter Smithson now of SMU. Forward 1.5 somersault, 2 twist. Holy moly. 53.3. Really well done. All right, so it brings us to our leader from this morning, and that was Rodrigo Romero of East Carolina. He'll get us rolling with dive 105B, 2.5 somersault pike.
Wow. Very, very nice top of the dive. If he could have just ripped that bottom tiny bit more, I think we would have seen another 8 on that board.
58.5. He's off to a great start.
Beginning our second round.
He's somebody Coach Jab spoke very highly season, so looking to have another personal best today.
Dylan Porter, 2.5 somersault tuck. Okay. Nice round of applause from the Bearcat faithful. He gets a good score, 50.4.
A lot of times, a tuck dive will not score as highly as a pike just because it's not quite as pretty. But when you have the perfect form, in which you saw there, you can score 7s.
Time for Kyle of UConn. 2.5 somersault pike. What you think?
6.
I think he was having trouble finding the right. At the end of the board, he was leaning over just a little bit, which pushed him out. I think if he just cleans up his hurdle a little bit, and he got another point to add.
Gavrilo now back at it. This is a tough one. Reverse 2.5 somersault tuck.
Well, you could see where he started on the board, that it was a tough one for him. He wanted to make sure that hurdle was completely controlled, which it was. Clean up the entry. Again, he has a little bit room for improvement, but really, really nice top of the dive.
ECU with Devin Nugent back competing. Backward 1.5 somersault pike on the way.
Clean dive, obviously a dive that he's comfortable with. It's fun to watch, and I'm curious as somebody, I mean, as a former diver, you can usually watch, and I can look and see kind of what dive's coming, so I know whether or not it's a dive that might be a little risky for some of these guys, but for you, not knowing what's coming, I always wonder, can you tell if it's a dive that they're comfortable with or one that
I have a hard time picking it out. I have a hard time picking it out.
That's good. That's
yeah,
good for
well,
them.
and I
That
think
was
it's
beautiful.
absolutely good for them.
Awards.
That entry was
7-7.
really perfect.
That's about as good as he could have done
Vertical
there.
on the head, yeah.
203B, 2.3.
Yeah, that's great.
There's about no splash there.
That's what you want.
That's right. Backward 1.5 somersault pike coming for Parker here. Terrific.
Good dive, a little pushed back, and maybe because I'm comparing it to the one before. And that's the hard part about this. If you're doing the same dive as somebody right before you, you're being compared essentially to the person right before you, right after you. Really nice dive if it would have been standalone, but not quite up to his teammates.
Peter Smithson now of SMU. Degree difficulty 2.6, 2.5 somersault pike.
Oh, that was a beautiful top. Oh, wow. That was a gorgeous dive. That got me excited.
Our reigning champion's got some serious competition.
8.5. Romero, 203B, 2.3.
Rodrigo Romero, East Carolina, backward 1.5 somersault pike. Graceful.
Really graceful. Again, you can tell it's a dive he's comfortable with.
6.5, 6.5.
Take off straight above. Really pretty entry. Could probably point his toes just a tiny bit more right on the entry, but actually no, I take that back. That was pretty good.
All right, starting our third round here. Forward 1.5 somersault, 2 twist. Oh man.
That's a big dive for 1 meter. Nice scores. 7.5. It's all about timing. His timing was beautiful.
Kyle Kennedy from UConn. Let's see what he scores. 39.6, not his best.
He's still struggling a little bit with the consistency on his hurdle.
Gavrilo back at it, 2.5 somersault pike, 2.6. Really, really good.
He's very, very comfortable acrobatically. You can tell by the way he spins his top at the top of his dive. Extremely fast spin. I think we're right at the end of his dive, but top have all been beautiful for him.
Top notch. Devin Nugent.
Wow. He was a bit back on the board in his hurdle on that, but managed to pull that out beautifully. Great control.
6.5. Hayford, 303B.
Yeah, he held on. That was really, really impressive control on that dive.
Dominic from SMU. Reverse 1.5 somersault pike.
Nice start to the dive, but came out a little bit early.
5.5.
Fives across, except for 1, 5.5.
305C, 3.0.
Back to Parker, 109.25 so far. A good bit behind the lead, needs a good one. $55.5, that's a good score.
Took off a little bit to the side of the board, but maintained control, managed to keep that from rotating.
All right.
Let's see what the freshman
Peter Smithson. Backward 2.5 somersault tuck, 3.0.
Wow. There are some big things coming his way. That's a really hard dive to do.
Especially on a 1 meter board, no doubt.
Yeah, he's got some big things coming his way. Obviously, he can clean up the entry, but that's a big dive for a freshman coming in.
Okay, Rodrigo Romero now. Freshman from East Carolina. Reverse 1.5 somersault pike, 2.4. Outstanding.
Low, very, very low degree of difficulty, but when you execute it that well, you get a score like that. Like he got 9s, 8.5s. Wow.
61.2.
That's exactly what you want. If you're gonna do a dive with a lower degree of difficulty, you've got to execute it perfectly, and he did.
And explain to the folks at home who might not be familiar with the scoring and how the degree of difficulty is the multiplier.
Sure. I mean, ideally, it's so for myself when I dove, I wanted to dive clean. So I would have, my coach actually wanted me to dive clean. I wanted to go after the hard dives, but I couldn't nail them. They were sloppy, they were messy. My scores on the hard dives, because the degree of difficulty was higher, but my scores were lower, my overall score dives. So it's just one of those things that you're constantly battling yourself, going back and forth with, saying, all right, what do I do? Do I really want to go after this? Can I attack it? Can I be consistent? Or should I play it safe and get a high score and doing what I know works? That dive worked for him.
Each guy, by the way, has 6 dives in this competition. We are in the beginning here now of round 4. This is Gavrilo Blyden of East Carolina, his 4th dive. And he is the 3rd diver in our pecking order this evening.
Look at that spin. Look at that spin. I told you, this guy is an acrobat. Are you dizzy? That was
a little bit.
Amazing. Again, work on the bottom, clean up the bottom a little bit. But his rotation is gorgeous.
Really, really good. Devin Nugent now of East Carolina. Inward 1.5 somersault pike. 45.6. Dominic from SMU. You got 3 Mustangs in a row. Backward 1.5 somersault, 1.5 twist.
Nice and clean.
Now Parker Hardegree. Parker working on a 1.5 somersault, 1.5 twist reverse dive.
This is my favorite dive, actually. That was my favorite dive to do.
To your liking?
Yeah, that was beautiful.
All right.
Very, very clean.
53.3 is a nice award. A really good clean entry. Peter Smithson trying a reverse 2.5 somersault tuck.
That was nice. Another great rotation. Little bit close.
Yeah, 67.5 is a darn good score.
Look at that.
Now the Pirate faithful are ready to get behind Rodrigo Romero.
He is a senior majoring in public health.
Inward 2.5 somersault tuck.
Woo!
Nails it.
Nails it. That was gorgeous.
And he knows it.
Yeah, I think that's the best dive of the meet so far, right there. Gorgeous entry.
We go back to Dylan Porter, who is sitting at 200.9 as we get started with this round. Porter just a sophomore for the Bearcats. Pretty solid. Degree difficulty only 2.3, but he hits a good dive.
It was clean.
Satisfactory.
Yeah, it was clean.
Now you might be able to see some of the flashing in the background here. It appears that the fire alarms are going off, although there's no noise along with it. But perhaps
that's nice. I'm glad.
Perhaps it might be a bit alarming to our contestants.
Well, the good news is it's pouring outside. That might help if there actually is a fire, but we'll hope it's just a false alarm.
Well, Kyle Kennedy is the one that steps off the board here, and I think his whole point is perhaps a bit distracted by the flashing. Kyle Kennedy's first dive is 44.4 as we get things rolling again. Gavrilo Blyden, East Carolina, his 5th of 6 dives. He's about 100 points right now behind his teammate and our competition leader, Rodrigo Romero.
Gavrilo actually scored a personal best in the prelims. He's having a pretty good day. Yeah, he left that one a little bit short, but gosh, I'm still so impressed by how quick this guy can spin. He is just such an acrobat.
Well, and with the 3.1 degree of difficulty, he gets a 51.15. Looking now at Devin Nugent from East Carolina. 1.5 somersault, 2 twist. Oh, yeah. 52.0. Couple 7s on the board.
Yeah, he's happy with that one. Squared up really nicely.
Dominic Hofer, first of 3 straight Mustangs to dive.
He squared up really nicely as well.
Slightly less difficult. 1.5 somersault, 1.5 twist, but nailed it.
Clean. Just a very, very beautiful, clean dive.
Parker, the defending champion. He's got a lot in the tank. This is a tough dive. 3.0. Reverse, 1.5 somersault, 2.5 twist.
This is the one I saw him do in warm-up just a few minutes ago. It wasn't as good as the one in warm-up, but it was still pretty darn good.
58.5. Peter Smithson now. He'll attempt an inward 2.5 somersault tuck. 3.1.
Wow.
Big kick.
Just missed the entry just slightly. But God, what a great takeoff.
Rodrigo Romero.
He represented the Mexican junior national team at the Central American and Caribbean Youth Games last year. Has some great international experience. Wow. That was very beautiful.
Easy to see why.
And his entry was super clean. Wow.
Our sixth and final round. Dylan Porter from Cincinnati. 1.5, or I should say 2.5. Backward 1.5 somersault, 1.5 twist. 45.0. High score there, 6.5. Back to Kyle Kennedy. Backward 1.5 somersault, 1.5 twist. Same dive we just saw. Work from Kyle. Sixes across the board with a 6.5. Give him 45.0.
Yeah, as a senior, knowing this is your last conference meet, it's a nice dive to go out on.
Absolutely. Now Gavrilo. He needs a big one here if he's going to find himself on the podium. But it's not totally out of the question.
Great top. Really, really good top again. Can tighten up just a bit on the entry. But he had a very good day.
Blyden moves into third in the meantime. Devin Nugent from East Carolina. 1.5 somersault, 2.5 twist, back dive.
Left it a little short. There's a little push back from the board.
A fair total award, 44.95. It was a 239 earlier. I beg your pardon. It was at 273 earlier.
Wow.
Good work from Dominic.
I can't wait to see what he does. I mean, both of the freshmen from SMU have performed phenomenally.
Parker at 276.55 right now.
Wow.
Pretty tight to the board, but outstanding rotation.
Yep, he trails Rodrigo Romero by 15 points. I don't know if that's going to be enough to get him the lead.
He's at 332.
He's got it right now.
Peter Smithson from SMU.
What a top.
Goodness.
What a top.
Forward
dive.
3.5 somersault tuck.
Gorgeous. Yeah.
60.0.
Holy cow. That was beautiful.
He moves to 332 points. It comes down to the final dive, as you'd hope. Rodrigo Romero. A reverse 1.5 somersault, 1.5 twist. Trying to bring home a title to the Pirates.
Whew.
That should be good enough.
That should definitely be good enough.
And the award is 55.9. Rodrigo Romero from East Carolina, your 2020 champion.
Just a gorgeous dive to end on.
The first Pirate in the history of the American Athletic Conference to win the men's 1-meter diving competition. In fact, he's the first non-SMU Mustang to win it. And Romero stands atop the podium. Congratulations to Rodrigo Romero and to East Carolina Coach Jabs.